We might be only months away from one of the biggest changes to Amtrak's national network in over a decade. According to some eagle-eyed rail fans and amateur sleuths, it appears as if Amtrak is on the verge of combining two of their most successful overnight services into a single 2,060-mile mega route. The trains being considered for this mashup are the current New York to Miami Silver Star and the Washington, D.C. to Chicago Capital Limited. So, if true, what would this new train be called? The Capital Star? The Silver Limited? It's fun to imagine. But let's take a look at what this change would mean. I'll share why I think it's an incredibly smart move on Amtrak's part, and also ponder some of the less auspicious implications of this alleged new power couple. Nothing about this potential shakeup has been officially announced by Amtrak. So how do we know it's even in the works at all? A quick search on Amtrak's reservation system reveals that you can book a ticket on the Silver Star from Miami to New York on November 8th of this year. However, from November 9th onward, the Star is apparently sold out every day into the future. This seems very unlikely, and you are still able to book a ticket as far as Washington, D.C. even after November 9th. All that potentially means is that the Star may be truncated to only run from Miami to Washington starting in November, right? But further investigation finds that on November 10th and beyond, all family bedrooms are sold out on the Capital Limited. So what does this tell us? Currently, the Capital Limited is the only Eastern long-distance train to use the double-decker Superliner equipment other than the auto train. Superliners have the family bedroom accommodation, whereas Amtrak's single-level Viewliner sleepers do not. So all this really suggests is that starting on November 10th, Amtrak is most likely converting the Capital Limited's consist from Superliners to single-level cars. But put both pieces of information together, and one conclusion becomes the most likely. Here's how it would work. Amtrak's Silver Star would depart Miami on November 9th and arrive into Washington, D.C. the next morning on the 10th. There, the train with its full consist of single-level cars will continue on the Capital Limited route all the way to Chicago, becoming the only Eastern train with two overnight segments on its route. Of course, there is the possibility that the changes to these two trains are completely unrelated. Or the two trains could also remain completely separate, keeping their current train numbers, requiring Miami to Chicago passengers to have two separate reservations for their journey. But the equipment itself could run straight through, meaning that the consist would travel from Miami to DC as the Silver Star, passengers would disembark, then reboard the same cars which would then run as the Capital Limited to Chicago. Either way, the evidence supporting a combined Silver Star and Capital Limited seems to stack up pretty nicely. So for the purposes of this video, let's assume that the rumors are true, and take a look at what this could mean for solving some of Amtrak's equipment issues, improving the national rail network, and for making some upgrades to the onboard passenger experience as well. First, equipment. Anyone trying to book a ticket on Amtrak during the busy summer travel season knows that space can be hard to come by, especially with the availability of sleeping car accommodations. If this plan becomes a reality, then 3 full sets of Superliner equipment currently used on the Capital Limited, plus a handful of backup cars stored in Washington, D.C., could be immediately available for use on Amtrak's Western trains. An extra coach or sleeping car here and there would instantly increase capacity on these routes without Amtrak having to spend a dime on new equipment. This would also mean that at least one new full set of single-level equipment would need to be cobbled together in order to run the new Chicago to Miami service. This would be in addition to the 4 sets now needed to run the Silver Star, bringing the total number of train sets to 5. Since Amtrak has now taken delivery of the full order of new Viewliner 2 sleeping cars, this shouldn't be a heavy lift. And how would this affect the national network? In my opinion, there are 0 major drawbacks. Even if the Silver Star no longer travels from Washington to New York, passengers coming to and from the Northeast can still enjoy a single-seat ride to most of the Star's destinations by taking the New York to Miami Silver Meteor instead. This would mean that passengers north of DC would need to transfer at Washington to reach some of the Star's stations in the Carolinas or its stop in Tampa, Florida. But with so many Northeast Regional and Acela trains to choose from, this is hardly an inconvenience. And the increased length of the route of course means more possibilities for lengthy delays. But in my mind, the drawbacks end here. Now on to the benefits. For starters, Amtrak's national network will finally have a Chicago to Florida train for the first time since 1979, which saw the discontinuation of Amtrak's Floridian. The Floridian traveled from Chicago to Miami via Indianapolis, Louisville, Nashville, and Birmingham. Although the route of the Floridian will still lack train service, at least Chicagoans and Floridians alike would be able to enjoy a one-seat ride between the Sunshine State and the Midwest for the first time in 4.5 decades. Currently, those wishing to travel from the Midwest to Florida must take the Capital Limited, then transfer to the Silver Star in Washington, D.C. This potential new train would eliminate the possibility of missing this connection. As I discussed in my last video about the dining car, the Capital Limited currently does not have dining car service and only offers riders microwaved meals as part of its flexible dining product. However, Amtrak reintroduced full dining service on the Silver Star in 2023. So passengers on the Capital Limited route would most likely see the return of the pre-pandemic full meal service on their journey, a very welcomed change from the status quo. The pandemic also saw the removal of the very popular Sightseer Lounge from the Capitol. Although it's not an exact substitute, the 2 levels of windows on the Viewliner dining cars would provide a superior view of the beautiful Allegheny Mountains as compared to the cross-country cafe cars currently in the Capitol's consist. And finally, this new service would also eliminate the need to change engines at Washington, D.C. Since the train would no longer be traveling up the electrified Northeast Corridor, running through the Hudson River tunnels into the underground Penn Station in New York, the train could run with the same power from Miami all the way to Chicago. This would free up electric engines for Amtrak to use on other Northeast routes and would eliminate the need to keep up to 4 extra diesels on the roster in Washington's Ivy City. To my mind, if this change becomes a reality, it increases capacity, improves connectivity on the national network, and upgrades the onboard experience, all without Amtrak having to devote any significant new resources or funding. What are your thoughts on this potential change? Do you think it will happen? Do you love it or hate it? Let me know in the comments below. And with the potential retirement of the Capital Limited train and maybe its name as well, watch this video for my take on the history of this classic American train. Then go out and grab a video or take a ride on the Capitol while you still can. And thank you for watching Rail Weekly.